Hello friends, welcome to the second week of this course. Today we will start module 2. In this module, we will study about tourism marketing environment. So today we will cover introduction to tourism marketing environment and responding to the tourism marketing environment, means the way in which companies give response to the changing factors in the tourism marketing environment. So let us first of all try to understand what is tourism marketing environment. We need to understand here that tourism marketing environment is dynamic in nature. Not just tourism marketing environment, but any business environment, it's actually dynamic in nature. It's not static, it keeps on changing with time. So what is tourism marketing environment? First of all, let us try to understand. Tourism marketing environment constitutes of outside players as well as inside players. Outside players which are lesser under the control of the tourism management companies, but which directly affect the company's ability to build and maintain successful business relations with its customer. So, outside players and those which are part of the company. Both of them together make the marketing environment for the company, and it is dynamic in nature. Business environment is dynamic and successful companies need to actually assess this environment in advance and respond to these changes which are coming up in the environment, which may be conducive, which may be even negative or not so good or hazardous for the company. And it's very important, this assessment and then responding as per the changes which have come up in the market to be successful in the market and to maintain successful business relations with the customers also. So business environment is dynamic and successful companies can assess and make necessary changes in their strategies to adapt to the upcoming opportunities and threat. So what do they get to know after this? They get to know about the threats and opportunities which are coming up in the environment. Only those companies which respond to the changes in the environment remain relevant and can sustain in the market. So, analysis, finding out factors, what are the changes which have come up, and then responding to these changes is very important for the sustainability of the company by maintaining good relationships with each and every stakeholder at each and every level. So marketing managers, they use marketing intelligence. Marketing intelligence is also called MI. Marketing intelligence to collect information from the environment. They collect information like about the competition, customers, which may also be called as customer base, new government policies, and schemes to cope up with the marketplace challenges and use the opportunities in their favor. Tourism marketing environment is made up of two components, or broadly we can say it can be divided into two categories. First is micro environment, second is macro environment. So let us study both of these environments one by one. First of all, micro environment. What is micro environment? Micro environment for a company consists of forces which are under the control of the company, or we may call it which are more under the control of the company. The organization uses these forces to respond to the stimulus. What is the meaning of a stimulus here? Meaning of a stimulus means the changes which have come up in the marketing environment. So to use. And let me tell you one thing, another word which is used for marketing environment is business environment also, because the environment in which a business is operated is the same environment in which tourism is applying its strategies and plan also. So tourism business environment, tourism marketing environment, more or less the same thing. Except for in case of marketing environment, few components may be bypassed. I'm saying maybe, not necessarily. So organizations use these forces to respond to the stimulus in the business environment. It includes, I'm talking about microenvironment. First, the company itself. Second, existing competitors. Third, suppliers. Fourth, marketing intermediaries. Fifth, customers or tourists. And sixth is publics. We'll study about all of them one by one. Let us first of all talk about the company. The philosophy of the company gives a guideline to the marketing managers, the way in which they need to deliver the services to their customers. Now, let me give you an example of this. Like a company is there, which is DePaul, in fact, very famous company, DePaul's Travel and Tour Limited. DePaul's is known to pay a lot of emphasis in providing pocket-friendly tour packages. So, top management actually decides the mission, vision, strategies and policies. And marketing managers need to follow these need to make their plans on the basis of these mission, vision, strategies and policies devised by the top management, and need to make marketing plan accordingly. And yes, they need to make the budget also for all these plans, marketing plans which they are devising. Okay. So employees of different departments like housekeeping department, accounts, finance, operations, services, all these departments need to work together in conjunction to each other so that expectations of the customers can be met, and expectations of the customers actually should be the center of all the activities performed by any company, maybe any department of any company. So shareholders, they also expect, they also want a good return, they have invested money in the company. So shareholders also expect a good result from their investment. So marketing managers need to work in such a manner which can increase the goodwill and net worth of the company. And all these big words like goodwill and net worth, this is only possible only if customers are actually the center of the company. Any department doing anything, the moment they start thinking about the scope, limitations, policies and these all things, too much emphasis on them and lesser emphasis on the expectations of the customer, will be in trouble. So whatever you are devising here, we need to understand here, it has to be in line with the expectations of the customer. If you are required to make any change in the policy, in the philosophy, in the strategies, please do so to be relevant for the customers. So next we are going to study is existing competitors. Now competitors are a part of both micro environment as well as macro environment. So when we talk about existing customers are part of the micro environment. Competitors are generally a part of both the environments, as I have told you earlier also. As per the marketing concept, a company can remain competitive only if it serves to the customers better than its competition. So, company has to be better than its competition. Only then it will remain in the market. It can sustain in the market for the long duration. Now, it must strongly position itself, the company. It must strongly position itself as well as its products both. So it is not only about the company, it is also about the products. Both company and products should have a good standing and position in the market. Like if we talk about the Indian Hotel Company Limited, that is also known as IHCL. I am very sure all of you know about IHCL, right? Tata Sons own this company. So IHCL and its different brands like Taj is there, Vivanta is there, Ginger is there, or Taj Sets is there. Taj Sets, maybe some of you are not aware about. Taj Sets is actually a company which caters to the F&B requirement of airlines and other hotels and events. So Taj Sets is into only F&B services. So when we talk about these different brands of IHCL, then all these brands are actually having their own position in the market, like Taj, Vivanta, Ginger, Taj Sets, as well as at the same time IHCL also has its own position and standing, which is known to deliver to the delight of the customers, to the delight of its guests. So that way the company not only needs to position itself but also needs to position its all products in the market, having a very unique standing for themselves. Now big and small companies, companies have different sizes, so big and small companies, both of these types of companies have their own advantages. Like if we talk about big companies have good financial support, good reach in the market, bigger workforce, as well as almost always better trained workforce also. So that way, if they need to make any changes to be competitive in the market, they have a better standing. They have better resources to be more competitive. They can even take financial risk also. If required, they may even sell their product either at lesser profit or maybe at just the cost price or nil profit. Okay. But when we talk about the smaller companies have very limited resources. So if they want to play with too many of their resources in the market, it is little difficult for them because their resources are limited, their market reach is limited. So that way they are at a comparatively disadvantageous position. But when we look about decision making for big companies, it's very difficult. It takes time. I will not say very difficult, but it takes time. It's a lengthy process because they have to standardize whatever changes they have made throughout their entire chain or throughout their entire distribution. Okay, so that way it needs a lot of standardization and then implementation and then keeping a check whether that is standardization has been met by all of their distribution channel or not, all of their different sales offices and different service delivery teams or not. But when we talk about small companies, these being smaller, it's easy to take a decision. It's not a very lengthy process, and then the implementation is also easier, lesser time taking, and too much of a standardization is also not required. So that way, if they want to make a little bit of changes, it is easier in a smaller company. So that way, share of market plays a very important role here. If the company is big, they can play more with changes, but then implementation and decision making will take time. If it is a small company, they have lesser resources, so they cannot play much with the changes, but then bringing in change, if they decide, is comparatively easier and lesser time taking and can be easily implemented also. So that way, share of market plays a very important role if a company needs to make few changes with respect to the changes which their competitors have brought in. So we have completed second. Now let us come to third point, which is supplier. Now, tourism products are a sensible mix of transportation, accommodation, food and beverages services, entertainment, sightseeing facilities, etc. So there are n number of suppliers, n number of suppliers. Which are a part for making a single tourism product. And we need to understand here that most of the time these suppliers are not a part of the TMC itself. So TMC has not much say in the quality, quantity, price, when to supply, how to supply, all these, resources which I have told you, like transportation, accommodation, food and beverages services, entertainment, sightseeing, so they have lesser control on these things. So if these supplier make any change in their supply or in the timings during which they can supply or the quantity which they can supply, then immediately the TMC has to make the necessary change to adjust to these things. And sometimes it even becomes that TMCs need to raise their either price or need to cut down on their profit margin to cope up with the escalated prices in the supply by their suppliers. So that way suppliers play a very important role here. Now let's talk about marketing intermediaries. Marketing intermediaries provide accessibility to the travel management company to their customers. So when I'm talking marketing intermediaries, I'm talking about the distribution network or the distribution chain, that is travel agency, tour operators, and all these components. So they needed accessibility to TMC to the customers, where the customers want to purchase these products. There is a long chain of tour operator, travel agents, independent or freelance agent, general sales agent, preferred sales agent, etc., which are used as a middleman for the distribution of the tourism products. Intermediaries usually work on commission basis. This is what we need to understand. Why do they sell the product of other companies? Because they make money by getting the commission from the TMCs. So this is their source of income. Commission is decided by the TMCs, travel management companies, that tour operator, okay, the bigger one which has made that product. And how do they decide what is the basis? So generally TMCs actually adopt the prevailing rates in the industry. So whatever is the prevailing rate, they actually provide the same rate to the marketing intermediaries as commission, financial obligation to sell the products of TMCs. So marketing intermediaries are very important. Now let's talk about customers or the tourists themselves. Customers or tourists are the prime force, the main reason for the existence of any company, whether you talk about the company TMC itself or its employees or the competition or the supplier or marketing intermediary, whatever is there, customers are the very reason for the existence of all of these components in the microenvironment. So any change in their preferences, there means customers' preferences, their purchasing power, then the way in which they want to communicate, have information and provide information also, choice of media which they want, these things play a major role. Company has to adjust, TMC has to adjust, it has no other choice to the changing taste, preferences, ways to communicate, purchasing power of the tourist. Now because it directly affects the demand of the product. This also we have to keep in mind. Any change in any of these components on part of the tourist will directly affect the demand of the product. And it is also necessary for the TMCs to adopt in order to retain its customer base. If they do not adjust, make the necessary changes, then in that condition, they have a high chance of losing their customer base. So let us try to understand what is the meaning of preferences. Preferences means what kind of product, where to go, what to do, how much money to spend, purchasing power. We all know as the economy progresses, people have more money to spend on the same product. So purchasing power, the more tourists are ready to spend, the more expensive or the longer duration with expensive destinations product can be made by the TMCs. Now, communication. When we talk about 20, 30 years back, communication was more about faxes, phone calls, sending brochures through couriers. But when we talk about today, e-brochures are present universally around the world. E-brochures can be sent as a link on SMSs also. E-brochures can be accessed through the website also. E-brochures can be WhatsApp also, can be mailed also. So that way, the ways in which, tourists communicate has changed a lot. 30 or 25 years back, actually, when I joined the industry, I remember we used to, provide every information on phone call and then, send it through courier. But nowadays, even if we send a mail, immediately after sending the mail, we take a copy of it and maybe a screenshot or just textual copy and send it through WhatsApp. So the ways in which customers communicate has changed a lot. It has become multifaceted, it has become faster, convenient. So communication channels play a very important role here. Now the choice of media which they want. We used to have only Doordarshan. Now there are multiple channels on cables. Now there is DTH. Now there is internet connectivity to our TVs. And then TV is available on laptop, on tab, on, phone, so on apps, which you can access from anywhere. So the company, the same home, people of the same family watch different channels at the same time. So what, a child is watching, what, youngster is watching, college going guy or, girl, and then what father and mother and grandparents are watching, because we have specific channels as per the age requirement. Like if we talk about TLC is there, history channel is there, there are, different types of channels which are there. So there are channels also available for niche markets. So as per their choice, people watch it. So these different media, so anybody who's interested in biking may watch different channel. Anybody who's interested in, more of a spiritual or, religious things may watch Astha channel, may watch Sanskar. So that way, depending on the type of product, different media can be chosen by the company to communicate with their, customers. So it directly affects the demand of the product. Now, last which is left is publics. So when we talk about publics, there are 7 types of publics. First is financial publics, then, media, then government publics, citizen action publics, which is also known as civil societies, very prominent nowadays, local publics, general public, and internal public. So let us understand all these 7 types of publics one by one. First is financial publics. Financial publics include all those institutions which provide some kind of monetary guidelines or regulations or financial aid or taxation system to the company. So banking, non-banking financial companies, RBI, Finance Ministry, all these come under financial publics. Next is media. When we talk about media means different types of, channels, newspapers, magazines, radio channels. So these are different type of medias, even social media. So these are different types of media. Government public is like Ministry of Tourism, Department of Tourism, different types of departments which government has opened or has been, operating for the benefit and for the convenience of the tourism industry. The citizen action public, or also known as civil societies, people are, nowadays very active into PETA, into taking care of stray dogs, into, taking care of downtrodden people, reaching to the last person on the bottom of the line, in terms of income. So, all those marginal societies, inclusion of these people into the tourism activities. So, these action groups of the society or civil society play a very important role. And nowadays, with the advent of experiential tourism, even TMCs are trying to incorporate the expectations of these civil society, because what are these civil societies? Civil societies are also part of the community at large, and community who are customers, they come from the community. So it's like, these things from large sinking into the psyche of the tourist also. And obviously TMCs want least opposition from these people. So civil action groups, then local publics. Local publics are like vendors, auto drivers, local tourist police, then police stations, information centers, these come under local public. And general public is by and large anyone who may not be directly or indirectly connected to tourism, but is a part of either the host community or the origin, or maybe in general who has been traveling with the tourist. Why? Because, you must be thinking how these general public is connecting. Tourist or prospective tourists come from general public only. And when we talk about internal public means employees. Internal public means shareholders, etc. So, when we look at microenvironment constitute of all those people who are, directly or indirectly connected to the business affairs of the company. So now let's study about macroenvironment. Macroenvironment means that environment which is by and large outside the business environment of the company, but which are directly or indirectly affecting the business affairs and profitability of the company. So this also constitutes of 7 components. Future competitors. See, I told you, existing competitors were in microenvironment. Future competitors will be in the macro environment because they have not existed so far. This is something which is expected. So they are not connected so far, but expected to get connected in future. Then demography of the origin as well as demography of the destination. Demography in general, in whichever environment the company is operating. For even communication purpose, that is advertisements, for doing some kind of business, anything. Anyhow it is getting connected, demography of all those places. Then economic environment, natural conditions, technological development, political environment, and cultural resources. So one by one we will look at all those things. So future competitors. Future competitors are actually very difficult to assess because they have not came into the market so far. They have not existed in the market so far. But we need to understand here this thing that, lesser the entry and exit barrier, the lesser the entry and exit barriers, there is a more chance that the company will have more competition in the market. Okay. So future competition is actually, let's take this example, like when we talk about restaurant industry. In restaurant industry, both entry and exit barriers are very low. Both of these are very low. So as a result of which, any entrepreneur which has money can actually start a restaurant and enter into this industry. But after, it might be thinking that it is very unique and serving very good product. But then what happens? After some time, it is, it is receiving a lesser footfall. It is going into, maybe a loss or lesser profit. So it become making difficult for the restaurant to survive. But then exit barriers are also very easy. So it may even exit also very easily. So entry barrier is also very, barriers are also down and exit barriers are also down. So as a result of which, competition keep on coming and going. But when we actually talk about hotel industry, hotels are actually, capital intensive industry. So before starting a hotel, before even your hotel becomes operational, it requires huge investment, capital investment. So that way, entry barriers in case of hotel industry is comparatively higher. So once a hotel enters into the industry, once a new chain comes up, once a new independent hotel comes up, but then what happens later on, that it has not been able to make profit, but then exit barriers are also high. If entry barriers were high, then exit barrier is also high. As a result of which, hotel has already done huge capital investment. It cannot leave its investment like this. So what do? They operate with lesser profit margin. So since lesser profit margin is there, so they sell at a lower price. So any new hotel which wants to enter into the same field has a good competition, because there is already a hotel existing in the same market which is operating at a lower profit margin. So what happens in this case? There is going to be huge competition, fine, as a result of which hotels are nowadays operating on franchise network system. Why? Because through this franchise system, they can take this entry and exit barrier comparatively low. So this is how actually, entry and exit barriers, they are level, and then what are the future competition which is coming, or maybe which is exiting or not exiting but selling at a lower profit margin, plays an important role in the macro environment and affects the policy of the TMCs and other companies. Now next is demography. What is the meaning of demography? The size of the population, the density population, the location of the place, which location, both origin as well as destination, then the age group, the gender, what is the gender percentage, whether ladies are higher, gents are higher, let's say, banished one, then race. In fact, we have more than 2 genders nowadays. So let me take even other gender or third or fourth gender also, the way in which these people want to define themselves. Then the race, ethnicity, total population growth, percentage at which this population has been growing. Then population age mix, like you talk about Indian population, it's generally very young. You talk about Japanese population, it's a growing aged population. Or if you talk about Chinese population, it is comparatively aged population, but when we look at the purchasing power of youngsters in China, it's very high, because most of these are single child. So that way, population age makes the density, the location plays a very important role. And then the educational level, So education plays a very important role. People who are generally educated, they take their tours also more seriously. They do not just want to go to a place to have a look at the monuments, or look at or experience the weather condition or culture of that place. They want to learn also from that. So that way, educational level also plays a very important role. So demography of the population makes a lot of difference. Here, I would especially emphasize the size of the population. Generally, what comes in our mind, that the rate of growth of population, the rate at which the population is growing, is the same rate at which we can expect that the tourism industry size will also go. Or we can expect, if 10% is the growth rate, it's very high, 10%, not 10%, let's say 2%. So 2% is the growth rate, then the 2% is the size at which the company can expect more customers every with the coming years. But that's not possible, because population when increases, we need to understand that there is a small chunk of the population which has a capacity to purchase a leisure industry product like tourism industry. So it is not about the general growth of the population, but it is about the growth of that population which has a purchasing power to purchase a leisure product like tourism. So this connectivity and this insight into the possible growth is very important. Now next is economic environment. When the economy is going, when the people are getting money, people have job security, then obviously people also have money to spend on tourism products. So the more we get growth in the economy, the better purchasing power will be there, the better spending patterns. Spending patterns means how frequently do they go. When people have money, they may even go more frequently. Otherwise, if there is slum in the economy, job security is not there, they may keep on postponing their trips, or they may take trips, but of lesser price. So that way economy plays a very important role. Now we also need to understand here that tourism products, they operate in global economy. So many times with outbound tourism, when people go from one country to another country, or people come from abroad to one country, the rate of change of foreign exchange plays a very important role. So when the euro prices go high, when the dollar prices go high, we see a downfall in the demand for outbound packages from India. But at the same time, the demand for domestic products go high. Why? Because it is only the exchange rate which has gone up, not the general status of the economy. So those people who otherwise would have gone abroad, now they plan to go on domestic tours. So that way, domestic tour demand goes up, but tour to go abroad goes down. Now, next is, so we have done future competition, demography, and economic environment. Now, let us talk about natural condition. We need to understand here that the natural condition of the destination is not just used by TMCs as a touristic resource, but the negative natural condition like high pollution, water shortage, extreme weather conditions, they play as a threat also to the health of tourists. So tourists avoid going to these places. So adverse weather condition deter tourists from visiting to such places. Now let me give you an example of this. High air pollution in few cities in China became a reason for lesser tourist visitation in the recent past. Okay. Now let's talk about technological development. Technology, tourism and technology, they go hand in hand. Tourists come from some other place, company is some other place, sales offices are at other places, and where the tourists want to go is at some other place. So technology, it is only through the technology that all these elements in this network get connected to each other. So tourism products are dependent on technological development to a very large extent, and especially I must say that internet, the only way of communication in the entire industry. So now with the advent of with these technological development, it is possible for TMCs to reach to the nook and corner of the world which were not accessible for them earlier. Okay, sales offices now can be in a small city, because internet is accessible. So through internet, whatever information company needs to give, maybe the company is somewhere in Bengaluru and there is a small sales office in Shopian or in Jammu and Kashmir, or maybe Amritsar in Punjab, all together a different direction of the country, the companies can actually be present over there because internet is accessible. So these developments have now also become reason for the emergence of new companies like Make My Trip. It is entirely dependent on the technological, or to be more precise, internet development. Make My Trip. Now, next is political environment. Tourists prefer to go only at those places which are politically stable, safe, except for when they are going for political tourism, when people come during elections. Even you talk about India, it is the largest democracy in the world. So when the election takes place in India, it's like a huge celebration of democracy. So people around the world want to come. So except for those people who are interested in political tourism, rest of the people, they want to travel in those countries or areas of the world or the country which are politically stable. And political environment also provides the laws, departments, politically active people, civil society like pressure groups. These all are part of political system. So they also play a very important role. Now, government agencies, they devise rules. They, coin or design the rules, regulations, and also the guidelines for the tour management companies to operate a business. So this is also how political system, has plays a very important role. Like nowadays, if we talk about in India, domestic government is paying a lot of emphasis on, domestic tourism. Our new political system, our current political system has been saying that any tourist who goes abroad should be a ambassador, act as an ambassador for its country, and should actually try to influence at least 5 people from abroad and motivate them to come to India. So this new thought process has come from political environment in the country. So political environment or political system works beyond providing laws, regulations, policies and guidelines. They also give a thought process to the people. Dekho apna desh. It is a policy which was given by the political environment only, political system only. Current political structure of the country. So political environment also plays a very important role. They also provide, they means the political environment or the political system also provides safety rules, fire safety regulations, employee regulations, and equal opportunities for everyone. Then licensing of liquor sale, etc., applicable taxes, these all things come from the political environment. So political environment is equally relevant for the company and equally relevant for the tourist also. Now the last for this macro environment is cultural resources. Cultural resources are made up of values of the society, norms, cultural restrictions, behavior, practices, preferences, etc. Okay. So some communities, they prefer to eat or not eat certain things. And tourists may visit places which are culturally different. Tourists walk both the ways. They may visit places which are culturally different to experience those culture, and they may also visit places which are culturally same because they feel comfortable over there. It's something which they know. So, culture is a very significant component. It works for like-minded people also, and it also works for unlike-minded people also. So, tourism industry, when we talk about, we frequently work with people, whether those people are our suppliers, our distributors, our tourists, or our media, with people who are different culturally. So being culturally sensitive is very important here. Only then we will be able to be relevant for our customers. And let me give you a very famous example of this. McDonald's is international restaurant chain, F&B services chain, and this sells non-vegetarian packages around the world. But Vaishno Devi, which is close to Jammu in India, is one such place where non-vegetarian food is completely not allowed. Not in that particular place, but in the region is not allowed. So McDonald's, keeping this culture in their mind, changed its policy and opened its first completely vegetarian restaurant in Vaishno Devi, and it is a very profit-making outlet there of McDonald's. So they could only make money out of the visitation in Vaishno Devi because they became culturally relevant. They aligned with the culture of that place. So cultural resources are also very important. And let's come to the last point, the last topic which we are going to cover in this lecture. I know this lecture has got a little lengthy, but if I divide this lecture into 2 parts, wherein I talk about and how to respond to this environment, at in another lecture it will be a discontinuation of the connected topic. So you may stop here and go ahead by listening to this part later on and do it in continuation with the least time which is required in giving this time gap between understanding the components of environment, and then how to respond to this environment. So to continue with this, I have given you 7 points, in which first is by hiring lobbyists. So all these industries, including tourism industry, they hire lobbyists which can work on part of them, which become their mouthpiece to influence the legislation and to let this legislation go in favor of them. These players in the industry, they also make their own lobby by making certain organizations like TAI, ITA, ICAO, and these lobbies, these a group of people, they then take the general mind of the businessman in this, who are sitting at the significant places and taking decision. So this is how lobbyist and making a lobby works. Now next is media events are staged to gain favorable press coverage by the advertorials. Companies provide that information to the media people by organizing media events, and yes, by pampering them. So they also come up with, it's a very new concept, advertorials. What is the meaning of advertorials? Advertorials means advertisements. ADS means advertisements. Advertisements expressing editorial view of point. If you look at couple of magazines and newspapers and you read there, you will find, you will feel like as if you are reading an editorial, the point of view of somebody from the editorial group. But at the top of it, it will be written sponsored. Sponsored. So it was not an editorial, it is actually an advertisement made look like an editorial, because editorials are more reliable than advertisement. So companies go ahead with advertorials. Now next is by press lawsuits and filing complaints with regulations to keep competition in line. Whenever competition is doing something which is unacceptable to let down the company in the market, then they go ahead with lawsuit. Let me give you a very famous example of, globally famous in fact, example of this. I'm sure you all must be knowing about it, and though it is not connected with tourism industry, but it is a very famous lawsuit wherein Apple Incorporation actually filed a lawsuit against Samsung for copying its technology. Okay, so they press lawsuit whenever the competition copies any of the product, comes up with something, advertisement or maybe some kind of media press release which is not in favor of the company. So by pressing lawsuits. Third is by contracting distribution channel in a better way. Now the word which I have given is contracting. What is the meaning here? See, we have our distribution channel working for us. Us means for the travel management companies. But we need to understand here one thing, that the longer duration contract the TMCs have with their distribution channel, the better it will be for them. Because once this distribution channel has been developed, these people become acquainted with the laws, with the philosophy, with the working, what is the normal time which is taking, what kind of information needs to be disseminated to the consumers, how to deal with these customers and consumers. So they are trained people also. So that way it should have try to have as much longer contract with its distribution channel as it can. The better it will go in favor of the company. Now by forming PACs, which means Political Action Committee, in its own company itself. So what is the use of these, political action committees? These companies represent the industries concerned to the government officials. I told you about this lobbying. In these lobbies itself, they must make political action committee which work in conjunction with those people in the government which devise the policies and regulations and laws for the industry to operate. Now, last one is, let me give you an example of this, McDonald's drive-through window. People, with double income group, everybody is working, traveling, people reach office late home from their offices by 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. or even 9 to 10. Now, where is the time to cook? So in that condition, McDonald's has provided a separate window, which is even outside the outside the building. It can directly be accessed by not entering into the restaurant also. So people don't need to park, people don't need to park their vehicle, people don't need to, enter into the restaurant and saving their time of taking in the parking and going outside the parking. Just drive to that window, make the payment then and there itself, get your, whatever you have ordered for, and then drive away. So this is one way of, providing time constraint related, problem, dealing with the time constraint related of the consumer. So the last one is again the same thing, with people, working and other things. These grocery stores have come up with daily counters. What are daily counters? Daily counters are those counters which provide cold cut food. Cold cut food means which is, microwavable, just ready to be eaten. So that way these, grocery stores and these supermarkets do not just provide fresh fruits or fresh vegetables. They are also providing microwavable. Just purchase them, go and put it in the microwave and it will be done. So at the end of this lecture, so friends, today we have studied tourism marketing environment. Two components where actually tourism marketing environment exists, that is micro environment and macro environment, and then how to respond to the changes which come up in the tourism marketing environment. At the end of it, I have given you 5 books which you can refer to get additional information on these topics. Thank you.